Hello and welcome to the next episode of The Gaming Journey, where we take step by step through the world of video games. Now today we're talking about a video game that's actually celebrating its 10th anniversary, or I should say not so much a video game as a video game character, as today we take a close look at the hero of God of War, Kratos. Now we know a great deal about Kratos' early life, mainly because we know he was a Spartan, and as the creators have told us, his life would have been mostly the same as most other Spartan boys his age. Now one major difference we do know of involves his brother Deimos. Now when they were younger, he and Deimos, the god Zeus sent down the two gods of war, Athena and Ares, to take care of him. The reason for this is because he was believed to be someone known as the Marked Child. Now the Marked Child had been prophesied by the Sisters of Fate to bring down Olympus and destroy everything.
The Marked Warrior shall bring about the destruction of Olympus.
However, by trying to stop this from happening, Zeus may very well have created this very warrior. You see, when Ares and Athena come to collect Deimos, Kratos actually attacks Ares. This winds up getting him a scar over his eye, but this is when Ares really begins to take a shine to the boy, believing him to be worthy of watch, and that he may even be worthy to become his second-in-command one day.
And you, young Skywalker, we will watch your career with great interest.
Having failed to protect his brother, Kratos truly takes it personal, decorating himself with the markings his brother was born with, in a sense becoming the Marked Warrior. Now, it is sometime after that Kratos was introduced into the Agoge, and as anyone who has done any research into what Spartans go through that, this definitely can explain some of the toughness that he displays throughout these games. Now, like most Spartans, he completed his training and would join the army, even becoming a captain of the Spartan military, and earning himself a wife along the way. In fact, the game states several times she's the only person who was willing to get in his face and tell him off whenever he needed it. However, this is when we come to the first big betrayal in Kratos' life. A betrayal not against him, but by him of his Spartan principles. He leads his army against a barbarian horde and quite frankly gets his ass kicked. He's about to die. Now, any true Spartan would be very well pleased to have found someone willing to give him what they called, quote, a good death. But Kratos, on the other hand, he calls out for Ares and swears absolute fealty if he delivers him from his enemies. Ares, who as we've already said has been watching the boy for some time, uses this opportunity to put his claim on him, granting him the Blades of Chaos and victory over the barbarian horde.
Ares!
The sky split apart, and the god of war stepped through. Descending from Olympus, he saw the makings of a god in a mere mortal. Ares would save Kratos. He would turn him into the perfect warrior, his servant on Earth.
Ares soon realizes that while Kratos is powerful, he does have two very large weaknesses, his wife and daughter. And so, much like the mythological Hercules, Ares sends him into a rage. The rage goes completely out of control and he ends up killing his wife and daughter. He is then cursed by the gods to wear their ashes, hence becoming the ghost of Sparta.
Ares, you will die for what you did that night.
Now this leads us to the beginning of the first game, and we actually find out much later that it's not so much about Kratos as it really is about Ares and Athena. You see, both Ares and Athena, mythologically speaking, are gods of war. The difference is Ares chooses war specifically, while Athena is war and wisdom. In other words, one of them knows when to fight, and the other one just fights because they're basically batshit crazy. That is one thing I'll give this game credit for, is it really does keep the character of Ares as he was in myth. It doesn't try to make him suave or tactical. He's basically a dog barking at cars. But you see, the game begins with Kratos being sent to Athens by Athena.
10 years, Athena. I have faithfully served the gods for 10 years. When will you relieve me of these nightmares?
We request one final task of you, Kratos. Your greatest challenge awaits in Athens.
She sends him there to kill Ares, who at this point Kratos has sworn vengeance against because he knows it was him who made him kill his wife and daughter. Now again, this leads to the first game, and the first objective is to claim Pandora's box, which is supposed to be the only way to kill a god. Now the game itself was a masterpiece of both platforming and really action-oriented gameplay. But more importantly, you saw a good amount of gameplay to story integration. Every perk, every ability, it was actually explained how you could do it and where you got it. It wasn't just the gamey, oh hey, you completed a level, so here's a new ability. I kind of like that. The Kratos overcomes the obstacles, gets to Pandora's box, and opens it. This leads to the battle with Ares. Now whenever we find Ares, we find he is ironically saying that he is going to conquer Olympus.
Zeus! Do you see now what your son can do? You cast your favor on Athena, but her city lies in ruins before me. And now, even Pandora's box is mine! Would you have me use it against Olympus itself?
This will become very familiar for us just shortly. But Kratos then attacks Ares, killing him. More importantly, he takes his place as the god of war. And that leads us into the second game. Kratos is now the god of war, although he is essentially the god of Sparta. As we see through the opening cutscene, he has been leading Sparta to conquer most of, if not all of, Greece. Now this has gotten him the anger of the other gods, very much in the same way that Ares trying to conquer all of Greece did in the first game. In fact, if you notice several times through the opening of this game, we see that he has actually become a lot more like Ares than even he would probably like to admit. Now this is when Zeus actually jumps into the fray. You see, in the first game it is said, much like it was in mythology, that Zeus had forbidden the gods to war against each other. This is why Athena needed Kratos in the first place. She needed a mortal capable of carrying out her will against Ares because she was not allowed to do it herself. Whereas in this game, Zeus completely abandons that rule and engages Kratos himself. Now this is actually explained much later, but in the first time it happened in the game it made no sense. But he takes Kratos' power and banishes him to the underworld, killing him.
For your last breath, you continue to defy me?
Everything you have ever known, Kratos, will now suffer because of your sacrilege.
However, in this series, if we've known anything, it's that Kratos never truly stays dead. He escapes the underworld and is led by Gaia the Titan to go and find the Sisters of Fate, that they can change his destiny. This leads to arguably the best God of War game ever made, and that would be God of War 2, in which you find it's basically everything the first game was, only bigger and better. Anyway, going through this massive quest, it leads Kratos to the Sisters of Fate, which in the Greek mythology basically were just as they were in the game. They were the keepers of fate. The difference was in mythology they were not quite so vengeful and angry, but then again in mythology no one really pissed them off either. Now after literally killing the Fates, which would have who knows what kind of reaction on the real world, Kratos once again confronts Zeus. And during the conflict, it is revealed that Zeus is Kratos' father. This could explain why he wouldn't die. In fact, most half-gods in Greek mythology end up dying and resurrecting by the end of their story. Now this game, ironically, also ends with the death of a god of war, as Athena jumps in between you and Zeus and actually takes the blade for him.
No, Kratos! Stop!
Zeus, who has now been extremely weakened, flees. He runs back to Mount Olympus, while Kratos has his most powerful weapon. Returning to the loom, Kratos goes back in time to the end of the Great War between the Titans and the gods.
All on Olympus tremble at my name. Zeus is weak. Ares and Athena are dead, and I wield the blade. We can win the Great War, but not in this time.
Deciding to bring the Titans to his time in order to wage his war of vengeance against Zeus, who he now blames for everything that has happened to him. Now this leads us to God of War 3, and while admittedly it's not the favorite for me in the series, I don't consider it nearly as bad as a lot of people I've seen talk about it. Essentially, God of War 3 is watching Kratos take the mythological role of the Destroyer. In fact, nearly all myth have one. Whether it be Ragnarok or Armageddon or what have you, there's usually an event in mythological canon that explains the destruction of all things.
By the gods, what have I become?
Death, the destroyer of worlds.
And over the course of God of War 3, we watch Kratos become that, one by one destroying nearly every god in the pantheon, the one exception being Aphrodite, who for some reason seems to always survive divine purges, but moving on. Now at the end of the story, everything lies in ruin. As the trailer even said, in the end there will be only chaos. It's at that moment I believe you can actually watch in the character Kratos realizes that everything has gone wrong, everything that has happened, all was his fault. If he had simply accepted defeat, accepted death, when it came for him all those years ago, everything bad that happened to him, with the exception of his brother's loss, wouldn't have happened. So in the final scene, he takes the blade of Olympus and he stabs it through himself. He gives up his own life, as he says, "My vengeance ends now." In other words, he finally figured it out. And like all Greek tragedies, it's not a very happy ending for Kratos. However, I will say this is one thing that confuses me when I hear people keep talking about God of War 4. Frankly, the story is over. And in fact, it's one of the only trilogies I know of that told a succinct story. There was no sequel bait. It was just the end of the story. Kratos is gone. The story is complete.
Nothing's over! It never ends! You can't just turn it off!
Now this is the end of this step of the gaming journey. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you join us next week.